For those of you that don't know, I am a huge slasher movie junkie, and Scream is my favorite franchise of the bunch. Plus, the final girl is one of my favorite tropes in any type of movie. The term final girl was first used by Carol Clover in her book Men, Women, and Chainsaws, Gender in the Modern Horror Film. She defined the final girl as a female who is the sole survivor of the group of people, usually youths, who are chased by a villain and who gets a final confrontation with the villain, whether she kills him herself or she is saved at the last minute by someone else, such as a police officer, and who has such a privilege because of her implied moral superiority. For example, she is the only one who refuses sex, drugs, and other such behaviors, unlike her friends. While there are an infinite number of final girls, both within and outside of the horror genre, Sidney Prescott has always been my favorite. I will admit that there is not a lot of depth to Sidney in the first Scream film, but each of the 3 movies that follow add a layer of depth to her character that makes her stand out from other final girls. This essay will look at 3 reasons why Sidney Prescott is the best final girl in the history of slasher movies. The first reason why Sidney stands out among other final girls is that she has a distinct and unique character arc across the series. Traditionally, final girls have little to no character development apart from making the decision to face their fears and confront the killer. At the end of Friday the 13th, for example, Alice Hardy is basically the same person she was at the beginning. Ginny Field from Friday the 13th Part 2 doesn't really learn anything or change in any way. While some characters like Laurie Strode from Halloween and Nancy Thompson from A Nightmare on Elm Street are given some character development in their respective sequels, they do not have arcs that start in one movie and continue into the next. Sidney Prescott is possibly the only final girl who does. When Kevin Williamson first wrote the script for Scream, he also wrote outlines for 2 sequels that would advance Sidney's character arc. Sidney may not have a distinct character arc in the first movie, but she is visibly changed by the time we meet her in the second. She is visibly more social and confident. She has a group of friends, is involved in theater, and has moved past her mother's death. When the time comes when the final girl must inevitably step up and face the villain, she does not hesitate. Scream 3 is often regarded as the weakest of the franchise, and rightfully so. Nevertheless, it is the only film in which Sidney has a clear character arc from beginning to end. At the beginning of the movie, Sidney has become a recluse. She is not kept in touch with Dewey or Gale, and only occasionally talks to her father. The conversation with her father is important because it shows that even though she is isolated, she's not really suffering. She has started to believe that the only way to keep the people around her safe is to cut off contact with the outside world.
It's as if you don't exist.
That's the idea. Psychos can't kill what they can't find.
She has accepted her trauma, but has embraced this lie along with it. It is also important to note that she has become an anonymous operator at a hotline for victims of domestic abuse. She's accepted her trauma and is now beginning to help others work through theirs. Over the course of the movie, Sidney learns that the world is not against her, that her friends do care about her, and that the best way to confront her demons is to face them head on.
It's your turn to scream, asshole!
At the end of the movie, Sidney returns home, only to open her gates, ready to let the world in. When Scream 4 picks up, Sidney has written a book about her experiences titled Out of Darkness. At this point, Sidney knows who she is and wants to help others find their place as well. When the murders inevitably start happening again, she holds steadfast to her position as the final girl. She rises to the occasion and takes on the killer. The presence of this strong character arc makes Sidney stand out among other final girls. Sidney's second unique trait is that she has a ghost. According to K.M. Weiland, a character's ghost is movie speak for a thing in a character's past that haunts him or her. The ghost usually forms the foundation for the character's depiction at the start of the movie, and the character moves away from the ghost over the course of the movie. When I rewatched Scream recently, there was something about Sidney's character that differentiated her from other final girls, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. That is, until I realized that she is one of the very few final girls to have a ghost in her first movie. Characters like Elm Street's Nancy Thompson and Halloween's Laurie Strode eventually develop their own ghosts in their franchise's sequels, usually the events of the first movie, but neither of them have anything that haunts them in the first movie of each franchise. As I mentioned before, Sidney does not have a strong character arc in the first film. However, the presence of a ghost provides the basis for Sidney's characterization in the first film, as well as her arc across the series. What is her ghost in the first movie? Well, it's clear, her mother's death. While it's not explicitly stated, it is implied that her mother's death is the reason that Sidney appears so apprehensive and withdrawn in the film. During the scene by the fountain, she's hanging out with her friends. However, she doesn't really participate in the conversation. The only time she does talk, she only speaks in whispers and doesn't look up or make eye contact. Her friend Tatum is seen protecting her as if Sidney were a wounded puppy. The ghost also provides the jumping off point for her arc across the series. Her mother's death was the catalyst for her recurring trauma. It was the first in a series of events that eventually caused her to withdraw from society altogether. Plus, it reinforces the lie that she believes at the start of Scream 3. That the world is out to get her, and she needs to isolate herself or else she and those she loves will suffer. Therefore, the presence of Sidney's ghost helps define who she is and why she grows the way she does. Finally, Sidney Prescott is a great final girl because she breaks the patterns and cliches that final girls often succumb to. Let's look at 3 final girl traditions that Sidney breaks. First, she is clearly the protagonist throughout the entire movie. In Men, Women, and Chainsaws, Clover describes how usually the audience begins the movie by sharing the killer's perspective and later on transitions from the killer's perspective to the final girl's perspective. However, I would argue that this isn't completely true. While it is common for the first half of the movie to not be from the final girl's perspective, it's not always from the killer's perspective either. For the first half of Halloween, for example, the point of view is split between Laurie, Michael, and Loomis, before Laurie is revealed as the true protagonist in the third act. However, in Scream, it is clear from as early as the second scene in the movie that Sidney is the protagonist and final girl. The second scene of the movie depicts Sidney's boyfriend climbing through her window and Sidney trying to keep her father from realizing that the boyfriend is there. The audience knows that Sidney is the protagonist and final girl because the scene gives Sidney several traditional final girl traits. She does not want to have sex with her boyfriend.
No, I wouldn't dream of breaking her underwear rule.
She has a masculine name. She is intelligent, as shown by her skills with a computer, which was rare back in 1996. And she is resourceful, as shown by when she uses her closet door to stop her bedroom door from opening. Another convention that Sidney breaks is that she has sex. Perhaps the most iconic final girl trait is her purity, particularly her virginity.
That's why she always outsmarted the killer in the big chase scene at the end. Only virgins can do that. Don't you know the rules?
Nancy Thompson refuses to have sex with her boyfriend Glenn and condemns Rod and Tina for doing so.
Glenn, not now.
Laurie Strode is teased by her friends for not having a boyfriend, which implies she is pure in some way.
It's tragic you never go out. You must have a small fortune stashed from babysitting so much.
Guys think I'm too smart.
I don't. I think you're wacko. Now you're seeing men behind bushes.
However, in Scream, Sidney has sex with her boyfriend Billy, breaking trope. The film itself even comments on this, with Billy and Stu saying that they could not kill her until she had lost her virginity.
You gave it up. Now you're no longer a virgin. Said virgin. Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
Finally, let's talk about how Sidney survives all 4 movies. It is very rare for a final girl to survive through a franchise, especially a franchise's first final girl. Alice Hardy may defeat Mrs. Voorhees and survive in Friday the 13th, but she is killed in the opening of Friday the 13th Part 2. Nancy Thompson may have lived to dream another day in A Nightmare on Elm Street, but she meets her end in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Heck, Laurie Strode has died twice, and might die a third not this October, but next October. However, Sidney makes it through all 4 Scream films. She is truly the ultimate survivor. We'll see what Scream 5 has to say about that. I would argue that Sidney Prescott is one of the most important characters in the horror genre from the past 30 years. By mixing traditional aspects of the final girl trope with some new and inventive ideas, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson created a character that stands out among others in her archetype. A strong character arc, the presence of a ghost, and a dedication to breaking tradition makes Sidney Prescott truly the ultimate final girl in horror history. Hey everyone, thank you very much for being patient while I've worked on this video. I've never really tried to do something like this before, something so long, something so in-depth. While I've technically made video essays before, I've never done it quite like this. This was the first time I put this much effort into it. I did research, I took notes, I cited sources. Also, FYI, I've attached a PDF of the script I used to make this video in the description. The script has in-text citations as well as a works cited page. If you guys would like to see more video essays like this, ones that are really in-depth and thorough, let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe, bye.